Hey guys, welcome to the BlackKnight Nation live stream. This is something maybe we'll do a little bit more on Sunday nights when we don't have a podcast guest. Steve Anderson here, my co-host, and I. We're going to talk some Army football. First off, let's thank our sponsor, Higher Echelon, for Joe Ross, former Army fullback, former Army assistant coach, and former Army officer. Joe Ross is going to appear on this podcast tomorrow afternoon at 4:45. Steve, it's going to be the 100th podcast of BlackKnight Nation, so we're pretty excited for it. That's going to be a lot of fun talking to Joe. I mean, he's so involved with the program, and now he's the president of Higher Echelon. That'll be a lot of fun tomorrow. We're going to talk some preseason Army football. We're going to talk a couple other things on the podcast, but first off, a Sunday night, Steve. Might as well. We want to make this interactive, right? If you're out there watching this podcast right now and you have any questions for us about Army football, if you'd like to join the live stream, you can send me your email. I'll send you the link to the stream. You can come on with us. We'll talk some Army football too. First off, we want to talk about former Army linebacker coach Robert Lyons, and words got around within the last couple of days about his health. And maybe you can just fill us in a little bit about Coach Lyles and what's going on there.
Yeah, no. So Coach Lyles had a heart attack a couple years ago, recovered, and was fighting through it. Got back and tried to do a little bit of coaching, and he's not doing so well. So since July 12th, he's been at the hospital down in Baylor. And he needs help. So there's a GoFundMe out there for him. I'm sure if you look at any any previous Army football player from 2007 to 2013 when he coached, I'm sure it's on their Facebook or on their LinkedIn or something. But he essentially, Coach Lyles needs a new heart. He's only, 61 years old, and he, he put his heart and soul into football. Drafted in 1984, played in, every type of league, NFL, CFL, AFL. I don't think he did the XFL. That might have been.
No, he was probably too old for the XFL.
But I mean, Coach Lyles was my first position coach when I got to West Point. We were both rookies together. So I was a freshman, and he was a first-year coach. And, man, I got so many good stories about Coach Lyles. Captain Videos, as his nickname was with the Houston Oilers. I called him Captain Video. He had these big glasses, and he watched film like no other. And he's the one that taught us how to watch film and what to look for and how just by a lineman's, whether he's heavy or light, what you can expect and how you got to play on the edge in order to, make the play when it counts. So Coach Lyles, one of the funniest stories ever, where it's my freshman spring ball. So it's basically 2000, I guess it'd be 2008, spring of 2008. I'm playing, they got me on second string and I'm pissed off at the world. And I'm literally starting fights every chance I get. And I'm just mad. And he's teaching us a technique about how to spill, right? You got to spill a block, which is essentially the outside linebacker. There's someone who's trying to block you, and you have to basically hit them so hard in such a way to where, Frank at the time or whoever the middle linebacker was can get over top, and you're making it spill to the outside. So you're stretching the play out to the sideline. And Coach Lyles, I swear, so if it was 2008, he was 47 years old. All right. By the way, Coach Lyles had this huge scar down his forearm. He has this huge scar. Okay. Just all the way down. And he's like, let me show you how to do the corkscrew. And I'm not even joking you. 47 years old man one of the most savage, violent plays I've ever seen. Just throws his entire body at this block and just blows it up completely. It was intense. It was as a will linebacker, I was like, all right, so the very next play I try it. And doesn't not as violent, not as savage as Coach Lyles at 47, but I gave my best and it worked. But man, I'll tell you what, that is like, I can still watch that play. I know where we were in Foley. I know where he did it. Just intense as can be. But he's also that spring is when he dubbed me Fitty, aka Hollywood. That's why my name is Fitty, aka Hollywood tonight, because that's the nickname I got. And I'm not even joking. Till this day, if you knew me while I was at West Point during that time, whether you were a football player or not, everybody called me Fitty or Hollywood. And it was because one interview they asked about me to him, and he goes, "You mean Fitty? You mean Hollywood?" And it's stuck ever since. And to this day, I still get called it. So
he did. I mean, I remember talking to him maybe a couple times, but he wasn't the guy that did too many interviews, Steve. He was a guy who just wanted to coach football, I think, most of the time, right? I mean, he had that NFL background. I mean, I think I'm looking up now, the Falcons and the Houston Oilers he played for, 8 seasons in the NFL. And, he loved, like you said, he loved football. He was always around the sport, through the leagues and stuff like that. And, coaching that Army too. I'm not sure if Army was his first college job. I'm not sure if it was, but
no, I mean, Coach Lyles, he was very like sporadic, right? Like he you're right. He was not a big interview guy, but that's how his career was, man. He was a guy that just got it done down in the trenches. He played outside linebacker / like D end, hand down, in a two technique or whatever. Like he stand up, hand down, didn't matter. He did a lot of interesting things, and my linebacker room had guys like John Plumstead, Frank Scapp, Josh McNary for a little bit till he got moved to D-line. We had Maz. We had a good group of guys that, he owned that room. Man, when people fell asleep in that room too, man, oh my God. Oh God, man. So he's a tremendous coach, man. Just knows X's and O's and then the game within the game very well.
He was coaching, according to the Wikipedia, he was coaching up until 2020, the Houston Roughnecks.
Mm-hmm.
The Houston Roughnecks, that sounds like an XFL team. Yeah, that was an XFL team. So I mean, football was still a part of him. And you're right. You talk about the linebacker room. I certainly remember watching practice and certainly remember intensity from him, no doubt. No doubt. When you played, I'm trying to remember, the morning practices weren't in your time at West Point, where they were after that. But I remember him being like very vocal during those morning practices after you left. And, a guy that definitely, I'll post. I have the here's the GoFundMe link right now. If you look in the descriptions of our on YouTube, the description, you'll find a link there also. Like Steve said, if you just search, on the social medias, Robert Lyles, you're going to find this. I'll try to post this on the BlackKnight Nation. I'll retweet a post on the BlackKnight Nation Twitter account too. So check that out. And man, just a guy that we wish him the best, right, Steve? I mean, I'm sure you got some more. I'm sure you got some more stories about Coach Lyles. But those are good ones.
Yeah, no, and look, a dollar helps. It doesn't matter how much, but most importantly, and Coach Lyles will tell you this, and I'm not even joking, man. He was a faith guy, and just a prayer for him. The power of prayer is very powerful. And he believes that. I believe that. So just, if you got a buck, send a buck to the GoFundMe. But if you don't, just say a prayer for him. He's a great man, genuine guy. And you weren't kidding, Sal. Like, there was no tiptoeing around. Like, once you got in between the lines, it was time to go. So, I couldn't have asked for a better entrance into Army football than having him as a player coach and as a position coach, because it really set the tone for my entire time there.
You did have him your whole 4 years, right?
Yeah, no, he was there. Now,
yeah. Wow, he was there
went,
for
2007, 2013, I believe he was there for, and it was like I said, I was at prep school in 2006, but my first year at West Point was 2007, and then he was there all 4 years. Now, he was my day-to-day coach my freshman and sophomore year. So when I was a will linebacker as a freshman and as a sophomore, he was there. And then he went down to coach the D-line / quicks, whips type deal. And I stayed with the mics with Coach Sadat and Coach Brock. But, me and him, dude, he was my position coach when I was a freshman and a sophomore. I'll never forget when I tore my ACL and I was gone from West Point for a semester. I took a semester leave to rehab and just concentrate on recovery. I came up for spring ball, and I didn't really have a place to stay, so Coach Lyles opened up. Coach Brock and Coach Lyles opened up their house for me. And when they went on the road to recruit right after spring ball, and I stayed a couple extra days, Coach Lyles was like, "It's fine, man. Just stay at my crib. Don't mess it up." There was a couple other, shenanigan type things going on there, but he was like, "Hey, man, don't be messing around my house, man." So, which I didn't. I mean, I just appreciate, that was the kind of coach he was. Like, he opened up his house to me just because I was up there for spring ball and I didn't have a place to stay, and I couldn't stay in the barracks because I technically, wasn't at the school at that time. So, him and Coach Brock took me in, and I'll always remember Coach Lyles. He's like, give a buck, say a prayer. The guy needs a new heart, and he's fighting every day right now. So,
So real quick, he was brought in by Stan Brock. Stan Brock's first year. Stan Brock was there for 2 years coaching Army football, and they had the NFL connection, of course. And then when Rich Ellerson took over, he was there throughout Rich Ellerson's tenure there. So, somebody, if you're an Army football grad or former Army football player and you played those years, you certainly have probably a lot of memories of Robert Lyles. Steve, you sent some messages out on social media. If you guys, if any Army football players are watching right now, want to pop on with some comments about Coach Lyles and their memories of him at Army football, we just like we said, we just wish him all the best, and hopefully we get some good news soon with Coach Lyles. And we'll kind of move on a little bit. It's Army football's back, Steve, right? We were on Thursday night with Jason Frazier, and we talked about the BlackKnights getting back at practice. They've had 4 practices so far in the preseason. No pads practice yet. That comes on Tuesday. And, there's certainly, it's with it being August, you have your what you think the team's going to be this year. And, a lot of people are pretty, coming off a 9-win season with a lot of weapons on offense, certainly back, and a little bit of retooling on defense. But Jeff Monken has a program pretty good, and just watching practice, I was up there on Thursday. It runs pretty smoothly. You have about 60 or 70 freshmen. That is their first Army practice on Wednesday, their second Army practice on Tuesday. You don't see any really hiccups or breaks in the practice. It runs pretty smoothly. What do you think, for you, right? You had those early practices where you couldn't wear, full equipment. I mean, I guess though you practice fundamentals with that, right? And then, I mean, there's got to be anticipation for the first pads practice of the preseason, right? Because it just means you're so much closer to that first game.
Yeah, no, I it's awesome that the whole, now that the freshmen are involved, that's great. You got to remember these seniors, juniors, and sophomores have been practicing for 3 weeks. They've been doing captain's practices. They've been doing what we call, PIAD, right, which is essentially captain's practices. They keep their books from last year, so you just run install basic, defensive sets, where to line up, just get all that rust off. So when now you got the freshmen there, all these upperclassmen looking smooth as shit, while the freshmen are running around like, okay, I gotta be this good. So, no, it's always good to get this isn't like the final team, but it's good to get the prep schools, the prepsters in there, the direct guys that are going to make a difference right away, and just see, where everybody fits up. I heard this. I've only heard this in 2 places in my career, right? In the military. And the first time was at Army football, and I'm sure it came from the Rakasans. But when I got to the Rakasans, or when I was coming to the Rakasans, at Fort Campbell, 3rd Brigade, 101st, they told me, you better drink the Kool-Aid or you're going to drown in it. Okay. And I bet that's how those freshmen are feeling right now. Right. They've never done periods like this. They've never done practices like this. They've probably, they've probably never, ran such an efficient practice before. All that type of stuff. But you better drink the Kool-Aid, and get with Army football, and get with the Monken way, or you're just gonna, you'll find yourself on sprint football team real quick. So
yes, there's a bunch of guys that move to sprint football after that, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, good for them. I'm sure it's a great sport to play. So
in this year's team, right? I mean, there's some graduation losses that certainly need to be filled. So there's certainly a lot of competition going on the offensive line. Like last year, the defense was, for the most part, had most of the guys returning, so there weren't too many position battles going on defense. But this year, you got your inside linebacker where you played, Steve. There's going to be battles going on there. You got, who's going to play nose tackle, who's going to replace Nolan Cockrell. Is it going to be Richardson, who backed them up last year? Who's going to step up there? You know what? I was thinking you have Kwabena Bonsu also back, who was, for another year, and that's going to help the defensive line with his experience. So, man, the outside linebacker, you got Andre Carter, who's playing opposite Andre Carter, who's filling Malcolm Morrison's position. Malcolm Morrison, Cedric Cunningham, Nolan Cockrell, Eric Smith, Julian McDuffie. These are all graduation losses on defense from last year. So, you have a good scheme going, right? And you have a star player in Andre Carter. And I want to talk about Andre in a second. You have Andre Carter. You have Bonsu, who's experienced. You got pretty good secondary with Jabari Moore, Cam Jones, Marquell Broughton, and whoever will step up and replace Cedric Cunningham. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, that's what this preseason camp's all about. And, they have next week before classes start. So, Coach Monken says he wants to kind of find out who the travel squad guys are going to be, probably right around this Saturday scrimmage. You want to know who's going to step up and who's going to be able to fill some roles. And man, I guess when you were playing, I mean, you had the experienced guys too, but you also had those camp guys, right? Those guys that stepped up in their senior year, or guys that stepped up that didn't play a lot the year before and really showed out to win a spot, right?
Oh yeah, I think that happens at every program every year. Some guy shows up and you were just, whether it wasn't like a complete like blindside, but someone's going to outplay someone who we believed was going to be the starter this year. And it goes back to, imagery, visualization, imagery, the guys that take the time outside of class, outside of academics to, make that play 1,000 times in their head. So when they go out there on, the Saturday scrimmage or every day at practice, they've already visualized their first step, or they've already visualized making that play or running that alley, or right. They've done all those things 1,000 times in their head to where when they have to execute, it happens. I'm a big believer in the CEP program that West Point has, Army football has. Joe Ross, who's going to be on tomorrow, was my first him and Major Chadwick were my first CEP instructors, and they taught me, how to do the game within the game. And then it went to, Major, now I think he's Lieutenant Colonel Tillman now, maybe even Fulberg Colonel Tillman now. So, but yeah, no, someone's going to step up, and someone's going to be a starter this year that, had, basically start off with like one rep or a few reps, right? Third steam. And he just got better and better and it happens every year. And I won't be surprised when it happens, but man, Saturday scrimmage is going to be a blast. I hope we can find a way to watch that and, maybe do an immediate recap from it and see, what's going to happen from it.
Yeah, I'm definitely I'm gonna get up there. I'm gonna find a way to get up there on Saturday to watch it. So maybe I'm definitely gonna try to get some interviews up there too. Want to get some of the veteran players, some interviews with veteran players, maybe who just shows out. Yeah, that's what I used to do when I watched those things, Steve. You don't necessarily have to interview the captains after each practice. You can get the guys who have made some strong plays or are making a bid to start. I'm trying to think. Like, to me, like I remember like maybe interviewing a Kingsley Ahee at times. A guy who was moving around positions, and you have some guys at Army that are doing that. Guys who you got a guy like Jackson Filipowicz. He's a center last year. He was a backup center basically to Connor Bishop. Well, like behind Noah Knapp and Connor Bishop also saw action. Now he's moving the guard, and that you figure out that's just a few steps over from hiking the ball, right? But I mean, there's going to be that's going to be interesting to watch because that's a guy that they're very high on. He was, I believe, a Georgia State wrestling champion, very good football player, guy who's a junior who's waited his turn, and now it's probably his turn. And we know how important that offensive line is, right, for Army.
Yeah, I mean, there is nothing similar about center, left guard, right guard, left tackle, right tackle. So I'll never forget talking to Ali Villanueva Martin, and when he was talking about going to right tackle after he had played left tackle so long, he was like, Steve, it is, the best way he could explain it was like, imagine being an expert shooter with your right hand or with your left hand, right? And then you have to switch over to your right hand, right? And then expected to be an expert shooter as soon as you start shooting. That's how he explained it to me. But, I can't, moving any position on the offensive line, it's a completely different thing, right? So you've got, the center, whether it's, kind of like the orchestrator of the offensive line, but he's, he is protecting the closest gaps, right, to the quarterback. Like that is his main focus, right? You might have a pull for some wild play here and there, but for the most part, you're protecting from a 3 technique, 1 technique. The guards are the chippers, right? They're helping the center get up to the second level, or pulling, and then the tackles are getting the end, the second level, or they might do a pull every once in a while, but it's so different. Just talking with Ali about, how much everything changes at each position that I hope it works out for him because, we've seen from the very beginning, Coach Ellerson, from Coach Ellerson to Coach Monken, like Coach Ellerson had this mentality and Coach Monken completely does. He's putting the most athletic guys on the field.
Yeah.
So if he's got a guy that he can move, that he believes can make the play, I have no doubt Coach Monken is going to put the most athletic, that FISM up front. He's going to put the most athletic guys up there.
Yeah, no, Coach Davis, Brent Davis, the offensive coordinator, was on a media call earlier this week, and he was saying how, they're looking closer to having like that kind of 8 to 10 guys that he feels comfortable putting in the game. And you have guys with experience, Connor Bishop, of course, center, Connor Finucane, guard or tackle, he played last year. Booby Law playing the left tackle. Looks like Booby's back practicing at full strength. I don't know if he went in the spring. He got a little banged up toward the end of the season. So you got those three core guys, and then you got guys like Sam Barzak, who played, I think he played against UConn and played the most snaps against UConn. Yeah, it was a blowout win for Army last year, but that experience was valuable for a guy like Sam Barzak, who's an upperclassman. And you have some guys that are converted. Some of these guys are converted tight ends that recruited as tight ends trying to play be the starting tackle for Army, like Simon Dillinger. And, you got big guys like David Hayward, a guy maybe you haven't heard of yet, but maybe he's the next tackle, replacing guys that have graduated like Mason Kolenchek. There's, that offensive line is so important. And, I was watching practice on Thursday, and man, Steve, your team, your former teammate Mike Vaden is in his first year coaching the offensive line for Army after coaching fullbacks for 6 years. The intensity that Mike brings to every rep I was watching, this offensive line, no matter who the five are going to be ready to smash, are ready to play some smash mouth football, physical football, the way Mike played for the Black Knights. I'm not saying the offensive line coaches of years past for Army, they didn't have their guys prepared for that, but just talking to Coach Brent Davis a couple of days ago, man, this has been a really good transition from fullbacks to offensive line coach. He almost has that mentality anyway, right, Steve? Like that kind of mentality.
Well, I mean, when Mike was at West Point, he was, he was a blocking fullback.
Yep.
So he could tell you how to fit up on a middle linebacker if you're going at the 8, if it's the 2-4-6 or the 1-3-5. We play. He played on that pro style where, how he fit up on a pass block. Where to put the hands. I mean, Mike was, just he was a pro style fullback, and you see it all the time. Those pro style fullbacks. They take on defensive tackles, defensive end, middle linebackers, outside linebackers. It doesn't matter. But I mean, Mike has been an utmost professional since I've met him when I was a freshman and he was a senior in 07. The 07 season. He's an 08 graduate.
Yep.
I was lucky enough to be stationed at Fort Stewart the year that Mike was walking across America for Legacies Alive. And we at my platoon, I got this approved and everything, but my platoon conducted a 12-mile road march with him where he reached Tybee Island, the East Coast. So where he started on the Pacific Coast, we got to watch him basically complete the actual journey from, Pacific Coast to East Coast and watch him go into the water at Tybee Island. And it was my whole platoon was there, and we got to talk about why he was doing this. And it was a very good learning moment. And on that walk, I'll never forget this. I'm a young lieutenant. On that walk, Mike has, he's now a civilian, and he talks about service to community, to country, to nation outside of, serving active duty. And I'll never forget this because he talked about the service to community, and Mike basically made me propelled me to start getting involved in my community and making a difference at that point. I was a young lieutenant. I was in downtown Savannah. I was hanging out, having fun. But this was one of those walks. Mark Ferdowski, who was a teammate of mine, he was also on the walk. I got to walk with him. And I mean, that walk was intense, and he had been doing it. I mean, we're on the East Coast of Georgia, and he's been doing it since California, Sal.
Yeah.
And he was still intense on that day talking to me about service outside of actual active duty, giving back. It never stops. And I'll never forget that, man. He had a big beard. He had this big beard, you know.
Yeah.
He's just been on this track for so long. So I have no doubt that the offensive line is going to come to work every single day. You know, it almost makes me respect offensive linemen even a little more now that Mike's involved. You know, me as a linebacker, I never really, you know, I just, you know, you always look at them as, you know, sloppy, you know, unathletic, just smart guys that can get in position. But you know, I have no doubt Mike's gonna have this right, have these guys right come, you know, the start of the season.
It's gonna be fun to watch. It's definitely fun to watch. I posted on our YouTube page. I did, you know, I was taking so much video of like just clips of him coaching. I'm like, let me put together like a mic'd up with Mike Vaden, and I missed probably some really good moments too. That's a couple clips that I put together. Check out our YouTube. I also wrote a story.
It's really good.
Yeah, I wrote a story on Mike Vitti too over the weekend, just with kind of Brent Davis's take on him and just how he joked around that, you know, Steve, when Mike played, he should have been in the offensive lines, maybe meeting room, or spent more time with the offensive lineman for being the blocking fullback. You know, he always busts him about that now. But now he's coaching offensive line, and you know, I think it's a really good fit, and I think we're gonna see. I think we're gonna see maybe a little bit different level of play from the offensive line this year, maybe. I mean, they've been solid, right? But it's more been this is just my opinion, of course. The running game, for the most part, inside with the fullbacks is a little bit of plotting a little bit the last couple of years. And maybe the second levels, like when Brett Toth used to play and get to those second levels and stuff, has been, you know, they need to get to those second levels to make this triple option work to the fullest. So, we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, I you know, the X's and O's, where they go, who they chip, whatever.
Yeah,
that can just be a matter of, right. You know, this guy's better than me on this play. That guy's better than me on this play. But I'll tell you what Mike will do, and you cannot duplicate it. You cannot try to imitate it. The culture in that offensive line room will change, okay? And those juniors who are now seniors will see it. And, you know, I don't want to keep bringing up, you know, you either drink the Kool-Aid or drown in it, but there's going to be a certain way this offensive line changes mentally that we will see on the football field. And that's what Mike is going to do. And Mike is going to coach them up. They're going to know tendencies. They're going to be football smart, right? But what Mike will do is, and this is just what a leader does, right? He takes whatever that culture is, right? It's obviously been successful. 9 wins, 10 wins, 8 wins, right? It's not like we haven't been able to run the ball, pass the ball, do what we want on offense for a lot of years now. But he's going to take what he sees successful, and he's going to turn that offensive line into something that probably nobody's seen before up here.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a culture, a climate, a mentality that he is going to instill, because there's few people more passionate than Mike Vitti on football. There's few people that will dedicate themselves. Mike's never played offensive line in his life. I don't think he has. I don't think he got recruited to play fullback at Army coming from the offensive line.
No, not at all.
But he's a professional. He's been a professional since I've met him back in 2007, all the way now. It's 2022. He's a professional, and he will figure out how to take that offensive line to that next level. That's what leaders do, and Mike is a leader. And I cannot wait. I hope I can watch this scrimmage somehow, but I cannot wait till we go down to Carolina
Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, Coastal Carolina, and make it happen.
Yeah, the word I use with Mike is edge. He has a certain edge to him, right? And I think that perfectly describes Mike Vaden. And that offensive line is going to have an edge, no doubt, at this opener September 3rd at Coastal Carolina. Wanted to talk a little bit about Andre Carter now. In the last couple of days, Army football Twitter accounts have posted that the Dolphins, the Buccaneers, and the Falcons have already been at practice, watching practice a week into Army preseason. And Steve, that's not something that's usually happened a lot at West Point, right? To get those NFL teams. Yeah, NFL scouts are there during the season. Yeah, they're there maybe in the preseason, but to get there that early, and I think it's going to be the norm this year with Andre. I mean, Andre's coming off a really good year. The projections are through the roof that a lot of people have him going in the first round, and some of them have him going to the Dolphins as high as 15 in the draft. So, it's just going to be a fun time to watch Andre this season, because now he's not coming, people know about him, right? He was an All-American. Coastal Carolina is certainly going to game plan for Andre Carter, and we'll see and he's a student of the game. We heard he's always going up to Nate Woody, defensive coordinator's office, wanting to be better, wanting to watch more film, wanting to know what he's doing right, what he's doing wrong. We'll see what he's going to bring to the 2022 season. I'm interested to see, because I think that I don't think he's reached his potential yet as a pass rusher. And you knew from one of the best to do it at Army, Josh McNary, what it takes to be a successful pass rusher at the Division I level.
Yeah. Super excited. Andre Carter is definitely a guy that everyone's going to scheme for. They're going to watch film on, and that'll be on, us to put him in position to make plays, whether that's, the easiest way for him to do what he does is, make it 3rd and long, make it passing situations to where, he can use his abilities on the edge. But, it's really exciting. It's really, you look forward to it. The biggest thing that we just have to remember is that we don't want him to try to do too much, and try to either, go outside the scheme, or not necessarily go rogue, but try to do something too much, which I have not seen him do in the past, 2 years I've watched him, especially last year when I watched him really close. We're talking 15th in the draft is what he's being projected. I mean, that's a lot of pressure. And I get it. He's a grown man, right? He's 20, 21, 22 years old. But we just got to hope that he just sticks to the plan, because what he's been doing has been great. And like you said, he's up in the defensive coordinator's his office, because he wants to know how to keep that edge.
Yeah.
And it'll be, again, I this time of year is like one of the worst times of the year, because all I want is Army football to start. I just want the first kickoff to happen so I can start watching instead of just anticipating the first game. So it's like the best but worst time of year for me personally.
Yeah, and you look at like the season opener when he's going against Grayson McCall, Coastal Carolina, who's one of the better quarterbacks in the nation, who likes to who has the mobility to make plays. That's an interesting matchup first week of the season, no doubt, to get ready for. I look at, you maybe could speak on this, Steve. The good want to be great, right? The great want to be what? What like Andre Carter is almost at that level of being very close to being great right now. What do the great players want to be? What's the next level after great, do you think?
Legendary.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Pete Dawkins, yeah. Glenn Davis.
Yeah. Get your name up at Mikey Stadium, right? Get your name as a major trophy award winner, right? Or
yeah, it's you know, what is it? What's I always it always goes back to Sandlot for me. Heroes are always remembered, but legends never die. Right? It's like there's a bunch of guys at West Point that are still remembered to this day. A lot of guys that were great players, but their names aren't etched in Kimsey Center. You know.
Yeah.
You know, I had a great career, but my name's not etched in there, you know. So if you want your name etched in there, you don't only have to win awards, personal awards, individual awards. You gotta win some big games. And look,
Yeah.
I know we've won bowl games.
Yeah.
But there's that still that cloud over Army football, right, Sal? That if Carter can have an impact in a big game this year against a big team, I mean that's it, man. I mean I'm getting too excited. Okay, I just want to get to Coastal Carolina. Okay, you get me too excited, Sal.
Well, the schedule is pretty much Coastal Carolina, the Air Force, Navy, and then Wake Forest. Those are going to be your big quote unquote eyes are going to be on, right? Pretty much. The home opener against Texas San Antonio, 12-win team last year. That'll be some Frank Harris, a veteran quarterback coming back for the Roadrunners. That'll be a pretty solid test too. So we'll have to see, but. I guess what's missing in the Jeff Monken era so far has been a perfect season, right? They've been really good. Have they been perfect? And he brings it up a lot, right? Is this the year where it's a possibility? We'll have to see the first two games of the year. Because those are two really good group of 5 teams that they'll be playing. Maybe Texas San Antonio is not so much on the national radar for people, but Coastal Carolina certainly has been in the past couple of years. They've been in some big games, the BYU, to name one. And so could this be the year? That's what's kind of been left here, an undefeated season. Yeah. Marquel Broughton says the goal is the CIC every year, right? The goal is for them is the CIC. And especially after last year, the way that Navy game went, that's definitely, that's definitely a target for this team, no doubt. So,
yeah, man, you just reminded me of that game, Sal.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean,
I blocked it out, but no, it's good. We don't want those juniors to ever forget that game, right? We don't want the sophomores and freshmen to forget that game because that's going to be powerful. But yeah, no. I see what you're saying, and I think it's always important, right? CIC is always important. And, for so many years, right, it was always win the CIC, right? You could go 2-8, 2-10.
Yeah.
And you could beat Air Force and Navy and it'd be great. But we're at the point now, and this is a testament to Coach Monk and his staff. It's a testament to the players that they bring in, because you can't win football without great athletes. You just can't. You can coach the best squares in the world, but they aren't going to win you football games, right? Like you have to have great athletes, and you have to facilitate that success. And we're at the point where Coach Monken has got Army football to a point where winning the CIC is almost expected. Like that you could ask 100 Air Force, Army, Navy fans, and they had to bet money on who would win the CIC. They had to. And I guarantee most of them would bet on Army to win the CIC. I just firmly believe that.
The Air Force team's pretty good this year, Steve.
Yeah, and that's look. I know they're good. Okay, look. They have a great record against Navy. They have a great record against Army historically. Okay, Calhoun's ran that program for years now, and he's doing great. All right, but hey, there's nothing to say about Air Force. Okay, Sal.
No. And I think last year the best win that Army had was, I think, the Air Force game. That was a really good Air Force team. That was a battle down to the fourth quarter, and Army pulled out a win.
Yeah.
So I think that the game against the other Service Academy game, the other CIC game, I think that it was just Navy wanted it more, to be honest with you. Navy wanted it a little bit more than Army that day, and we'll see what happens. But you look at now, we're about 4 weeks away from the opener, and I guess what you want to do, because I see this week's schedule, they went 4 straight days, right, from Wednesday to Saturday. They're breaking now, and they're giving them Wednesday and Friday off this week. And I know that some guys may be limited in practice to start early, guys with like a lot of reps, because you want to get them to the start, right? You want to get them to the starting line at Coastal Carolina. Yeah, you want to get them enough reps to keep them sharp, but you got to be. Sometimes it's a game, not a game there, but it's you have to make sure you're doing enough to keep them sharp, but then you want to make sure you want to get them to start too, Steve. So I mean, I don't know if that was when you played, if that was something that they did. I mean, I'm sure you want to, as a player, you want to get as most reps, you want to get as most prepared as you can, right?
Yeah, no, like I said earlier, a lot of these guys have been doing reps since July 10th, July 11th. Okay, I'll never forget this, because I was driving up to West Point on July 9th when I got the call that my grandmother died. Right? That's why I know that's how early we start, because I was coming off of, semester leave or whatever. I was driving up to West Point to check back in to get after Piad on July 9th to start on July 10th, like captain's practice, full reps. I mean, look, I know coaches hold us accountable, but it was told to me that no one's going to hold you more accountable than your teammates. And that's what we did. So those guys have been getting after it. The majority of them. Now the freshmen, they got to drink the Kool-Aid or drown in it, right? So they got to get the reps in when they can. But the other thing that West Point, does really well, who, from as early as Joe Ross was with me, is you're getting mental reps. So they might not be practicing on Wednesday, Friday, but they probably are going to have film study, or they might have
good point. No
they
doubt.
might have imagery, visualization, quizzes, not necessarily like quizzes like you're going to fail, but like, hey, when you see Coastal Carolina's guys line up 2 guys on the slot, it's 3rd and 7, right? And they're on this side of the 50. What are they probably going to run, right? A rub route, or, whatever their tendencies are. But there's mental reps to be gained on those days. It's not like they're just like, hey, go out, get drunk, enjoy being a cadet, right? Like that doesn't happen, right? And, I don't think the senior class would like that, even if that was the mentality. And we don't know this, Sal, but they could just be planned off days, right? And then if Coach Munkin doesn't see what he likes on Tuesday, bring him in, have a quick little, roundabout, or Friday, right? I mean, Coach Munkin most likely reserves the right to bring guys in Wednesday and Friday for that kind of thing. So, there's work that's going to be done. It just may not be physical work under the load, because even in the Army, the first thing they tell you is time under load is what does the most harm to your body, when you've got pack, weight on. So we'll see. But, I have the utmost confidence in the coaching staff on, these guys are professionals, man. They've done this, oh my God, hundreds of times, a combination of hundreds of times. So Yeah, back when I played, it was like full pads, like day one, and you just went at it. And then whoever was left standing at the end of the day one was like, all right, you guys will be number ones and number twos. But that's just not, it's not, conducive to the environment now. You got guys coming out of Beast, CFT, all this kind of stuff. So, I'm excited to see what the product is on Saturday, whether it's starters versus starters or if it's ones versus twos versus ones kind of deal.
Yeah, no doubt. We got about 10 minutes left in this. If you guys are watching right now, if you have any questions for Steve and I about Army football, what's going on in the preseason, anything, just feel free to send us your comments, questions. Yeah, you made a good point, Stephen. When you were saying July, right, when you were there, now it's even earlier now because they go and get their field training done early, almost right after classes are over, and they're back at the academy June, probably, mid to late June, taking summer classes and getting in the weight room, getting after in the weight room, and doing those captain's practices. So that's a great point. Tomorrow, right, is the freshman march back. So the freshmen are marching back tomorrow already from Beast, and you don't have any memories of your march back, do you?
Chafing. I just remember chafing. That's it. That was the first time I listened to. So Coach Kawika was there for some summer training when I was at prep school.
Yep.
And I always wore spandex because I was afraid of chafing, and compression shorts. I always wore compression shorts. And Coach Kawika swore that going commando was the only way to go. And on that march back was the first time I ever went commando. And I'll tell you what, it was a hard lesson. It was a hard lesson for me. Now I go commando all the time now. But I'm pretty sure it's because I have nothing left to chafe. It's just like my thighs are just solid stone down there at this point. But yeah, no, I remember the march back very well. I didn't know if I was going to ever wear ass for class pants again. So I hope if any of you guys have your phones and you watch this, do not do that for the first time on the back.
Yeah, I don't think the freshmen get their phones until after the scrimmage on Saturday. I don't know. So
it's when everybody else gets their phones. So
yeah. So having like when the practices start this week, having like a lot of freshman parents like just seeing their sons in our pictures or the videos that were posted, and they're like relieved because that they haven't had really a lot of contact with their kids for a while. So they just want to know if they're still alive and kicking, and having, trying to do their best through the first days of West Point.
Yeah, I don't know what the rules are against upperclassmen now, but I remember when I went through, we got to use some phones, from the upperclassmen when we went up there.
Okay.
If they were like, hey, man, you want to just call your mom, real quick. Always the joke is like, oh, you want to call your girlfriend that's already dating somebody else? You can do that too.
Yeah.
Like all those jokes, and you're just like, oh God, I just want to talk to somebody that loves me.
Yeah. So I mean, it's getting closer for them. The March back's a sign that it's getting closer to classes. They start a week from tomorrow. So, and then we're getting closer and closer to the kickoff. We're going to be here. We're going to keep we're going to keep the podcast rolling with Joe Ross on Monday. We got Mike Vaden. We hope to get him on after once classes start at West Point and his schedule clears up a little bit. We hope to get Mike Vaden on. I know you've been talking to a couple people also about getting on as guests. We want to keep this up because when we have podcasts, the last two we've had with Nate Hunterton and Jason Frazier, and just how they're keeping that Army Football Brotherhood going and how their connections, they might be 20 years removed as players, right?
Yeah.
But they're still bleeding Army football, and they're still trying to help the program in ways that they can, just getting the good word out about Army if there's a local player that is thinking about going. just over the weekend you had a couple kids commit. One kid from North Carolina who had Matt Joins, who had offers from Army, Navy, and Air Force. Visited Army twice. Didn't need to see Navy or Air Force. Committed to Army. A kid out of Florida, Phineas Allen, who I just communicated with through a direct message and wrote a story on. A guy who in ninth grade, he's a ninth grader. His brother's getting recruited by Army. His older brother. He just starts researching Army, and he wants that to be possibly one of the top schools. He attends and plays football at, and he committed to Army on Friday. There's all those stories. I was up there on Thursday, Steve, and what's great about covering this team is that everybody has their own unique story and their own path to West Point, how they get there, how they get through West Point, right, and how their life outside of West Point. And that's what we try to, on this podcast, that's what we try to do today. We wanted to just get it out there. We wanted to talk about Coach Lyles again. Below is the GoFundMe page for former linebackers coach Robert Lyles, who, as Steve said, needs a heart transplant. So if you guys can do anything to help that out, it's also in the descriptions on our YouTube page. Follow our YouTube page. Subscribe it. Steve, we're up to 430 subscribers now on our YouTube page. We're getting there, man. We're slowly climbing to 1,000. We got it.
Yeah.
1,000 is the goal, and our Instagram page is picked up. We've gotten a boatload of followers this week, whether it be parents, Army football fans, former Army football players. Donovan Lynch. I saw Donovan Lynch, former linebacker, post a photo of him getting his expert infantry badge. Right.
Yep.
Him and Connor Slumpka completing that course at the same time. I'm like, I contacted Donovan. I'm like, Donovan, would you mind if I use your photo and post it on our BlackKnight Nation Instagram and the BlackKnight Nation Twitter accounts? No problem. That the post on both posts have over 100 likes on both platforms, and Donovan started following us. Connor Slumpka, who got a shot with the Jaguars in minicamp, he's now moved past that and moving forward with his Army career. His dad was a former Army football player too and did the same. So I mean, I hope one day we can get Jim Slumpka and Connor Slumpka on our podcast. That would be a really awesome podcast. I mean, we'll work on it. Hopefully Connor will get a break in his military obligations, and we can do that, because I look at, there's so many, sometimes people say, oh, you got to run out of people to put on your podcast, right? Steve, we're getting to 100 on Monday, right? And they're saying you're going to run out of people. How many people can you talk
to? There's thousands of Army football players.
I think
look, if we can get Pete Dawkins and Mike Mayweather on here, I think we can get some other people on here. All right. We had Greg Gatson on this podcast. Okay. So, I mean, we're talking about all-time football greats. So it'll just go ahead.
No, I want to try to tap to like the Pete Dawkins era, right? But I want to try to get try to mix it up a little bit, right? And get some players, because who was the one kicker we had on from the 70s, and he had just some awesome stories to tell.
Yeah,
Tom. His name. Huh? What's that?
Wasn't it Peterson?
Yeah, Tom Peterson. Yeah, I mean that was a blast to talk to that guy. I mean, you just don't know what some stories you hear, like Jason Frazier's story about Lyle Weaver, and that kind of escaped me a little bit about being high school teammates. And Lyle Weaver's a guy who I think gets kind of lost a little bit in how great of a player he was, because Army wasn't having success when he was playing. But that dude, you talk to any of his teammates, that dude was elite. That dude was the man. And, I think there's so much to go. We're going to use all the resources both of us have, right? And I'm hoping to get Cole Christensen on very soon too. He started a Bleed a While, I believe, apparel company. Cole wants to come on. John Radigan says he's also wants to come on. John's recovering from a knee injury right now with the Seahawks, and man, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, no, I bought a snapback from Bleed a While, and just reading the reading the website, I got all fired up. You know what I mean? Because that's what I mean. It's built off of Bleed a While with Coach Monk in Preseason, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to get Cole Christensen on the podcast very soon, hopefully. We have some guys that have been on a couple times. We have some guys that have been on like topical shows, which I would like to do more of, to be honest with you. I would like to see if we can get a bunch of Army quarterbacks on the podcast together from all different eras and just get their takes on what it was like playing in the offense, what they see from the offense now. I mean, maybe Trent Steelman. We had Kelvin Hopkins on already. Nate Sassaman is maybe a guy who we can look to.
I mean, we've had Ronnie Makeda on.
Ronnie, oh my God, Ronnie! How can I forget about Ronnie? I want to get Lehman Hall, who back in the day, Army was throwing the ball in the late 70s, and Lehman Hall was,
I'm actually really close neighbors with Chip Bowden now, who Chip Bowden was our sophomore, where we almost beat Texas A&M at Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Our sophomore year, so a bunch of them.
Yeah, Carson Williams, the guy who.
Oh yeah, C-Dub, baby.
Carson Williams,
yeah, man.
Ahmad Bradshaw. I mean,
so it'd be pretty cool just to get them. We could step back at that point, Sal. We just step back and just listen to how they talk about the game, because they saw it completely differently. So.
It'd be fun. I mean, we're gonna try to do a little bit of everything here. And like I said, if there's a Sunday, well, once the season starts, we'll be doing the post game stuff, and I'll be live in Conway, South Carolina for the season opener. So we're gonna figure out a way. I might have to head back to where I'm staying and maybe do it after the game. I haven't figured out what I'm gonna do yet. If I'm gonna go to the pet. What's more important, me being at the press conference or us doing a post-game show, a post-game pod? I'm going to try to get some – I'll do my best. I'm going to try to meet up with some Army grads down there for tailgating stuff and try to get some good footage there. I mean, but I must admit I'm going to be sitting on the Coastal Carolina side. So, but I'm going to have a good view of the Army side, better view of the Army sidelines from that side, Steve. So
it'll be good.
Yeah, it's going to be all fun. Guys, we really appreciate you staying with us tonight. We want to be more fan interactive too. So when we're doing like podcasts, when we're doing game reviews, when we're doing, live streams like this, please feel free to send your comments. I want to get some fans on tonight. I'm going to do a better job of that for the next time we do one of these. I have a couple of people in mind that we can do. Maybe we could do topics of, your best Army defense, best Army uniform, best Army defensive player. I don't know. We did one on the best game you've ever seen at Mikey Stadium, and we had a fan come on, Brendan, a New Jersey guy that I know, and he was great. His perspective as an Army fan of more than 20 years ago. So we're gonna do a lot more of that stuff, guys.
I mean, once the season starts, there's going to be a bunch of chirping going on. So we'll love to hear it. So just bring it on.
Yeah, no doubt. Thanks again, guys. Check out us on BlackKnightNation.com. Got a lot of stories on. We're going to, like you said, scrimmage is coming up. First, the preseason scrimmage coming up this Saturday. We're going to be there, and we're also going to check out our coverage and check out our YouTube channel, all our we have Facebook pages, we have, Instagram, and we have Twitter all over the place. Follow us, give us tell us what you want to see from the website and the podcast, and we'll see you soon. Steve's been a blast, and we'll be back tomorrow with Joe Ross at 4:45 p.m.
See you later. Beat Coastal Carolina.